Hey everyone, Prashant here with another video for audio technology. Today I get to introduce you to a brand new product from Apogee called Boom. It's a 2-input, 2-output USB-C audio interface. Only one of those inputs has an XLR connector. The second input has a TRS or TS connector for instrument or line level signals. On the back is a pair of TRS monitor outputs, a 6.5mm headphone output, and of course the USB-C connection. It's fully bus powered, and the Boom is capable of audio resolution up to 24-bit 192 kHz. Of course, being an Apogee product, we can expect better than average conversion, and I can say for sure that out of the little time I've spent with Boom, I can definitely hear how the converters are high quality just listening back to tunes on my headphones. Now here at Audio Technology, we have covered loads of similar little audio interfaces just like Boom with 2 inputs on it. And to be honest, when I was looking at this product, I was wondering if there's really much here to get excited about other than its futuristic good looks. But after spending a day or two tinkering with Boom, I can say its special sauce isn't really its hardware, it's the software. Apogee has placed a DSP chip inside of Boom, which allows both of those input channels to be processed through the Symphony ECS channel strip, which is the same channel strip included in some far more high-end Apogee products. So as a first look at the Apogee Boom today, I just want to show you through what I think is the best feature of this interface, and that's the software and DSP. Alright, so what you're looking at here is the Apogee Control 2 software. This is the control application that comes bundled with the Boom interface. Really nicely laid out. I think Apogee always does a great job of making these control applications look really neat, easy to work out, and there's plenty of functionality in here as well. Up here is a channel view button where you can switch on and off different segments of the mixer based on what you want or don't want to see. You've got your main kind of global controls down here and up top. Then the mixer is laid out with channels 1 and 2, the physical inputs is the first 2 faders. Then you have your playback channels 1, 2, and 3, 4. And then your master fader at the end. What's cool is the master fader output can also be assigned to a software input. You have your preamp controls in the software, of course, all the way up to 62 dB of gain. Let me just crank this all the way up to max just to show you how clean the gain is. I've got to speak really softly so I don't clip the mic. It is really nice to know that there's 62 dB of very clean gain if ever you should need it for a gain-hungry dynamic microphone or a ribbon mic. The rest of the preamp controls underneath here, things like phantom power, phase reverse, and so forth. Of course, up top, you can choose the type of input, so mic, line levels, instrument, and then the first input channel allows you to engage a 10 dB pad. The second gives you 2 different impedance options. Now, one feature I really appreciate about Apogee Control 2 is the ability to assign different outputs to the monitors and headphones independently. So for example, I might not want the live output of my mic right now coming through my studio monitors because then it might feedback. But I do want to hear my mic through my headphones. It's really easy to set that up. So over here in the bottom right-hand corner, we have the output section. Here's the headphone output here. You can adjust the level. And if you click this tab, you can choose exactly what output you want to send to the headphones. So in this case, I want the headphones to receive the output of the mixer. So any changes I make in the mixer are of course now reflected in my headphones. But in the monitor's output, say I only want to hear playback 1 and 2 for whatever's coming out of my DAW or a media player in the computer. So I can assign that directly to playback 1 and 2. And in that case, there's no risk of any live input monitoring being fed through my studio monitors, so I basically don't have to worry about any kind of feedback. This is really useful in a recording situation where you want to feed a specific mix to your artist or a singer, but then you want to hear something very different through your studio monitors. Also handy if you've got your monitors in a room that's separate to the recording room where you're sending your headphones feed. So Apogee makes that really easy to configure. But aside from the flexibility of routing and configuring outputs in the Control 2 software, I think by far my favorite feature would be the DSP. You access that on channels 1 and 2 with the effects button. So you can see my mic is coming through channel 1 right now. If I click effects, it opens up this processor, and what we're looking at here is Symphony ECS channel strip. As I mentioned, this is a channel strip that's included in far more prestigious Apogee interfaces, the Symphony lineup included, and it was designed by Bob Clearmountain, so fantastic sounding little processor. There's an EQ section up the top, compressor underneath, there's a drive saturation knob in the top right, and of course the output level trim. You get a number of presets as well, which can be useful if you just want to quickly dial up a sound based on what your input is. So let me mess with the EQ just so you can hear how it sounds. We have the high pass filter, which goes all the way up to 300 Hertz. A cool feature that Apogee has included is the ability to engage the high pass filter with this switch into the sidechain of the compressor, which will then keep the compressor from reacting to low frequency material. Now, what I really want to show off with this EQ is just how musical it is. So say I'm talking into a dynamic mic right now. It's pretty common to do a big high shelf boost on a dynamic mic to open up the highs. So I'm at 10K, boosting all the way up. So let's just go to max, 15 dB at 10 kilohertz. Now I can think of so many other EQ plugins where if I boosted 15 dB at 10K, things are going to start sounding really trashy and cheap, gritty, just piercing in your ears, not fun to listen to. It's crazy that with this Symphony ECS channel strip, this is still quite a usable sound. Sure, it's bright, but it's a really musical top-end boost. It's just opening up the sound in a really natural, airy way that you expect a good EQ to do. And you don't hit that threshold of ugliness really quickly. You know, that's the mark of a good EQ, where you can be a little heavy-handed, but it's still sounding musical. It's still managing to hold together. The same goes for the low end. So let me just give a big boost around 90 Hertz just to kind of emulate that typical broadcast radio sound. Again, 15 dB boosted at 90 Hertz. I can't think of when I'd really use an EQ this way in actual applications. I'm being heavy-handed here just to prove the point that this is a really musical sounding EQ. And perfect for just quickly making your inputs sound good. You don't want loads and loads of control. I think 3 bands is perfect. You know, if you're in a recording context, you don't want to get all surgical and kind of notch out specific frequencies. You just want to hear the sound, quickly make some broad brushstroke tweaks, and take the sound from good to great with just simple controls that sound really good. Same with the mids. It's sweepable from 250 Hertz all the way up to 8K. So that gives you plenty of flexibility, and you also have the option to change the Q of the curve from a broader bell curve to more of a notch curve. Now let me dial in some compression. As I bring the threshold down, you'll hear there's some automatic makeup gain being applied because the level isn't changing that much. You can hear the compressor acting on my voice right now for sure. I wouldn't call this a transparent compressor. As you can hear, it's got some aggression to it. It has a little bite, and I think that's great. That's exactly what you want when you want to use compression as a tool to bring some attitude to a certain sound. Again, very simple controls. You don't have any attack or release settings, but that's exactly what you want. You know, if I'm trying to dial in some compression quickly in a recording situation, I don't want to keep the band waiting. I don't want to keep a singer waiting. Just quickly spin a couple of knobs and know that, yeah, I'm pulling a good sound. It is going to add a little presence and forwardness to the sound. This does a great job. It's nice that you also have this dry-wet mix control. So I could, for example, just completely slam my voice 10:1, bring the threshold right down, and you can hear it's compressing extremely hard right now, which is pretty ugly, to be honest. But if I bring the dry-wet mix back, I can emulate a parallel compression type of application, which keeps some liveliness and some dynamics to the sound, but also adds in that support and reinforcement of the heavily compressed signal underneath. So I love the sound of this compressor. I think used sparingly and tastefully, it's an amazing tool to have on hand to just sweeten your input sources, especially if they're really dynamic. Now, the final piece of magic is, of course, the drive and saturation knob. As I turn this up, you'll hear it starting to act on my voice. It's just thickening things up. It's kind of like a high-end boost, a bit of a low-end boost at the same time, but you can also hear this complexity in the harmonics that it's adding, and it honestly just makes a source sound more interesting to listen to. You can be really forceful with it and crank it into proper overdrive, at which point now it sounds like a broken radio. And it's nice to have this option if you do want to use this saturation control as an effect. But I think used sparingly, again, it can just do some really nice things to bring in some richness and complexity to an input sound. I really like what Apogee has done with the Boom interface. Clearly, it's targeted to people who have modest input and output requirements, bedroom producers, home studio owners, singer-songwriters, solo podcasters. But at the same time, you don't want to compromise on sound quality. So though you literally only get one XLR input on this interface, you do get 62 dB of really clean preamp gain. You get great sounding conversion on both the inputs and the outputs. And of course, the best part is you get the DSP powered Symphony ECS channel strip, offering you 3 bands of really musical sounding EQ, a nice punchy compressor, and then the option to dirty up your sound with the drive knob to add more flavor if you so choose. And that's all while not adding any extra stress to your computer's CPU, because all that processing is run off the built-in DSP chip. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you also to the folks at Link Audio for giving us an early look at the Apogee Boom. Head over to audiotechnology.com to see lots more content like this, and we look forward to seeing you next time.